Good morning, guys. Welcome to another Crypto MC episode. Today, in our Trade for a Living podcast, we're going to be looking at Bitcoin, and I'm going to show you a few tricks that you can use to identify trends, to trade in harmony with the trend in the end of the day. Now, let's just quickly recap what we said last week. So last week, we started off the stream, and I explained to you guys that Bitcoin's going to probably be bouncing between this supply zone around 62,000 and probably going to migrate its way into this demand zone around 52,000. So what happened was that Bitcoin slowly grinded, and over the weekend, we actually went into our demand target. So the argument is, and that's why the reason, how to identify if the trend starts turning bullish, step one, and then if that happens, where to enter to trade in harmony with the trend. That's the idea for today's stream. So guys, if you're interested to find out a little bit more, you may be new to the channel as well, let me know. Say hi. I see there's a few guys. Morning, Quibus, Stefan, Jockey, good morning, Mr. Altec, and Stefan, as always, good morning to each one of you guys. Hope you had an amazing weekend. Okay, so let's quickly crack into Bitcoin and see what we want to be looking for this week. So let's cut the audio, get serious. Okay, so an important thing is, before we do that, let's just have a big look at what of the macro things out there is going to impact our trading as well. It's important. We kind of need to just have a little bit of an idea. So I said to you guys last week as well, you know, the Dixie's in a buy zone. The Dixie's in a bull zone. Now, whether the buy zone goes up and goes lower still, or goes up and trends up for indefinite, you know, that's not what we're trying to identify here. But the fact that where we're at, we should expect a bullish reaction. What does this mean? It means that when the Dixie turns bullish, Bitcoin, your stock market, everything is going to be poised for a retrace. Bitcoin already trending down at that moment meant that we were expecting lower targets. Hence the fact that, you know, I gave you guys that idea for the buy zone at around 51K, and this is where we were last week. So the price has, you know, migrated towards our buy zone. Okay. Now, with that in mind, what else can we have this week that could potentially impact our trading? Well, if I go over to Forex Factory, I think the only big day for me to really look at is going to be your Wednesday. So for today and tomorrow, expect the market to be lazy, meaning not really see big moves, okay? And then at around Wednesday, when the CPI comes in, and Thursday, when the PPI comes in, there will be a whole new bunch of opinions entering the market. Now, candles is a visual representation of opinions. It's what people thought. You buy on the basis that you think it's going to go up. So you have an opinion. So when we look at the market and we look at news events that might generate new opinions, it means that that might generate new buyers as well as new sellers in the market. And that is the volatility that we just need to keep in mind for our trading for the week. Okay, so now that we know that we are pretty much going to be lazy for the next 2 days, let's have a look at this price action and try and unfold what could potentially happen there. And the easiest way to do that is to try and identify trends, which is what the second segment of today's stream is. Now, in the video description, you'll find a link to the trend scope indicator. Now, this is an indicator that I built. It's completely free. I didn't really invent anything special with that indicator, but I just merged a lot of strategies into one indicator, as well as a few settings and stuff, so that you can easily use this thing to switch between the various view sets. Okay, so the trend scope indicator looks something like this. I'm going to switch it on. If you click on the little gear icon there, it will give you this little input tab, and there is a whole list of things that you can select. And these are all settings and filter sets that are used to get to an answer, to get to that point of identifying the trend. Okay, so let's start off with the first setting. So I mean, going to there and have it set on short term. Now I've already got my view set and saved accordingly. You can do that as well. And if you want to know a little bit more about the indicator, what you can do is you can head over to the Discord, links in the video description. You can click on the navigation tab and go to the trade menu. And there you will find the trend scope indicator and everything that you need to know about that as well. Additional ways of how I set up my screens, the strategies behind each and every one of those things, all laid out there. And at the end as well, an educational video that you can use to look at how I use this, other tricks that I use as well, and how to merge that with the buddy indicator as well. So make sure to do that, guys. Okay. So back to the market. So back to the charts. So in short, when we look at the market from a short-term momentum point of view, what I'm looking for is the market shifting. So the easiest way to identify what the short-term momentum is to have a look at this. The trend is down, the momentum is down, and the support for price is down. So when you have trend above momentum and above support, it means that everything is lined up for short-term downwards momentum. This means that the trader in me will try and look for hidden bullish divergence or hidden bearish divergence to continue on with this momentum. So identifying, although we're in a buy zone, I'm still identifying that the momentum is nice and strong. Now, when the momentum is nice and strong, you can see that the market will then, if it wants to turn around, create a scenario where these lines start intertwining with each other. And it's at that stage where I can say from a short-term point of view, once this condition happens, I might consider switching sides. Then that's where the second set on the trend scope indicator comes in, the long term, because if I want to switch sides, I want to see what is the impact going to be? Is this going to turn, or is the long-term momentum just going to push price a little bit lower? So let's have a look at this from a long-term point of view. So the long-term momentum, also you'll see that there is a trend line, and let's maybe take away all these red lines from the previous week so that we can just have the lines. So you can see long-term, we were moving downwards, but the momentum was still above the trend. And although the retrace is coming down, the market is still confused. Okay. There's no harmony. Harmony means, like I said, harmony, you want to have all these conditions met in that sequence, red above green, above yellow, harmony to the downward side. So what does this mean for us in our trading? It means that although we might experience from a short-term point of view more selling pressure, do not think that, or do not expect that this move or this any more selling pressure is going to be met with price falling to 40 or 30 or 20 at this stage, because the bigger views are still confused. And it could be that we start chopping around in this area, meaning go more sideways, create more sideways. And that will give this long-term view that we've got chance to do what? To switch sides, because clearly you can see if this starts happening and these lines start intertwining, we might have a scenario, something like this, where the long-term now gets a chance, let's just zoom in here, where the long-term scenario gets a chance to resolve itself, okay? And once that then starts switching bullish again, we then can have long-term swing longs, okay? So, and that in the end of the day means that when your short-term and your long-term is aligned, they look almost identical, which in this case, you clearly see they're not doing. It means that then we can swing trade. So anybody that wants to go long leverage, don't go long and take profit 2 hours from now. You can actually sit on it for 2-3 weeks, because you might have a really big payday coming your way. So swing traders at this stage is not really nice. Okay, so this is basically what this tells me. Then if I take this on to the third set, okay, so we're going to go over into, we're going to look at the trading range. What I'm trying to identify is now, I've clearly the market's confused between the long-term outlook and the short-term outlook. There isn't any harmony. This means that we're going to be chopping. Now, what is chop? Chop is something like this, sideways. Okay, let's just do that. Click there, sideways. This is chop. The market's confused, doesn't know what it wants to do. And that brings us over to the third one. So we've clearly established short-term, we're trending down. Long term, it's not sure what it wants to do. So we could potentially be in a sideways range long term. So let's have a look at that now. And you can clearly see on the long term indicator side of things. Okay. And this is now switching to there. Okay. Um, let's take away the RSI real quick. You can clearly see that the upper end of the range identified by this red line, the lower end of the range was identified by that green line. Okay. And we're looking for what? We're looking for this to start pinching, the Bollinger Band to start pinching. Because why? Because what that then indicates is that all the opinions are running out and they've already done or said their piece. Meaning, if everybody that wanted to buy has already bought, everybody that wanted to sell has already bought, already sold, you're going to have a scenario where that band becomes really thin. And it's normally when you have that thinning of the band, when you have your next big explosive move. And that kind of helps you time the market. So it's not necessarily, I'm clicking on stuff there that's minute and small, but it helps you time the market. So if you look at where we are now, is this the right time to try and enter in on a specific swing? No, because we don't have any sideways market. We don't have that contraction of the market. Now let's zoom out to previous instances. We have that. You see, once it starts narrowing in, that band starts narrowing, that's normally when you get your pinch. A narrowing of the band tells you that there's a next big move happening. Okay, so lateral range now, if we look at this price action, according to this indicator, and clearly then shows you the upper end of the range still sitting around $62,000 and the lower end of the range sitting around $54,000. Okay, so if I then look at what I TA'd with you guys last week, you can clearly see that everything is still in alignment with that. Okay, so that's it. So what do we do? What do we do with this now? What's the big thing? Short term, this is a sell zone. But if I look at the lateral range, I'm expecting if the market wants to shift gears, it's going to find a reason for me to get a buy zone in this area. And the rule goes as always for anybody that wants to learn how to trade, guys. It's simple. Be bullish at the bottom of a range, be bearish at the top of the range, and don't try and think too much about that thing because we're trying to trade in this direction. Okay, so it simple means looking at where we're at, my idea is going to be that for this week, for the next 2 days or so, short term, trade in harmony with the trend, meaning look for the short. Everything is telling you that there should be a secondary test at around 53. Look for the short. Long term, the market's confused, but because we're in a lateral range, expect that confusion is going to at least go and test previous areas of resistance, meaning that I'm going to use this as a buy zone. There you have it. Okay, guys. Now, as for setup, now the big question would be, could I get a nice setup? That's something you guys would want to see. At the moment, the market's not giving me anything that I can really look at on the 4 hour. Why? Because I always need to have a buy setup or a sell setup, meaning it gives me an excuse to enter the market with a clearly defined invalidation line to exit should I be wrong. Okay. Now, this brings me all back. I trade on Prime, guys. I mean, video is brought to you by Prime XPT. And last week, that's the amount of money I made for my trading for the week. And sometimes, even though you're right, you can predict the direction. We can look at all this TA. It still doesn't mean that you get to be right on the trade. Because, I mean, for the sake of a few dollars, you get stopped out. And it's frustrating thing. And that's why trading is much harder than what people give it credit for, because it's easy to do the analysis, but it's another thing trading against that analysis. Okay. So in the end of the day, we're at the bottom of this range. I want to try and go long. I want to try and trade to the previous area where support was, which is around 58. And the goal is for this week, within the next few days, that the market's going to want to try and creep back up to this range here, around 58, maybe a little bit lower, let's say 57, thereabout. Want to creep into this range there. And then at that stage, we should have a scenario where the short term is going to get confused as well. And then if we want to switch long, flip the whole dynamic around, you'll have a scenario where the market's going to want to come back down to at least 55. Okay. And because the short term at this stage, just in conclusion, just as another reminder, because the short term at this stage is there, it's telling you it needs to be bearish, I want to look for an excuse within this area to short the market. Just don't have one just yet. Potentially though, let's just quickly have a look at this. I'm going to switch to a line tool for you guys. There's a pivot. There's price. So price is below that pivot. And there's the RSI above it. So we do have hidden bearish divergence, which means if you're looking for an excuse to be bearish, you can remain or you can keep on looking for that within this entire zone, because it's only once price goes above that 56 and deletes the divergence, that's when that excuse disappears. There you have it. All right, guys, have a lovely day. If you have any questions, as always, head over to the Discord. You can go into the help section. You can create a chat channel with me. You can ask me questions or you can join the Discord, open your Prime account today. Links in the video description. And you can come and trade with me in the Discord. Like I say, there you have it. Have a lovely day. And then this afternoon, we're going to be looking at more of our HODL views. There's a few things I want to share with you guys. So make sure to subscribe, like, and share the video. This afternoon, we're going to be looking at more of these bigger time frame analysis. Cheers, guys. You have a lovely day. Bye-bye. I'll keep hustling.
Subscribe now.